Get ready for candid conversations that embrace the unfiltered truth of our lives. In this space, we celebrate the unity found in our shared human experience. Join me as we explore the depths of our stories, invoking empathy and facilitating the healing we all yearn for. This is Pages of Me podcast, where authenticity is our compass and the unfiltered truth sets us all free. Welcome to another episode of Pages of Me podcast, Election Edition. I'm your host, Kezia, and today we're joined with Ward 2 City Councillor Lisa Kearns, and also she is running for Mayor of Burlington. We are really excited to sit down and have this conversation. We're going to go beyond what the role of her councillor is, beyond her campaign taglines. We're going in to talk about her experiences, the lessons and values that define the moments that made her into the leader that she is today. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me on Pages of Me podcast, Election Edition. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for such an amazing asset for people to tune into and learn more. This is so great.
Yeah, like getting to have those conversations of getting to know the person behind the campaign. Like, who is Lisa Kearns beyond, the title and the position? Because people are voting for the person, not necessarily for the title. So getting to know the person, Lisa Kearns. So as being a parent, me and my sister are always trying to think about what we can do to create core memories for our kids. So one of a core memory that we created was taking our kids to a Leaf game. Okay. None of us watch hockey. We're not a hockey family. We don't ever watch hockey or go to hockey games. But we're this is a good core memory for them to kind of set the foundation of certain experiences for them to have. What do you feel is a childhood experience that you have that you feel is still influencing you and kind of set that foundation for who you are as a person?
Yeah, what a beautiful question to start off with. And I would say we wouldn't have one particular core memory or a tradition or something that would be more commercial, we always go to this amusement park. I think for us, the core memory and what really reflects and shaped my childhood is that we spent a lot of time in nature. And whether that was a hike on the weekend and a bag of peanut butter and jam or cheese with sandwiches, restacked into the same bag, eaten kind of by a stream, or after hiking up to the Devil's Punch Bowl as a kid, we would make our way all the way up to the top and challenge ourselves and experience a little bit of fear, but resilience and sense of accomplishment. That really felt like, when I reflect back, a lot of my time was shaped by being outdoors, whether it was hiking or camping or just being out in a local park, kicking around a ball. So I would say those are our core memories as my family. I have a brother and a sister. And then, we bring those core values straight through to today, where we have 2 children together and we spend a lot of time outdoors as well. Yeah,
and Burlington has so much trails, parks, natural outdoor resources. So you feel
Very
that
special.
has really shaped you of being able to spend that time outside, not always be having your kids always on electronics.
Well, of course they didn't exist when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. But
and they can bring their electronics too, because now I'm finding them taking pictures for themselves or posting pictures in nature.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that merging that digital platform with real life experiences can kind of make other kids say, "Oh, where are you? That looks pretty awesome. Maybe parent, caregiver, could we go out and do something like that?" So. It's not so much as framing it away from the electronics, but it's more about taking them as they are. Not making a fuss about what they want to wear. If they want to wear flip-flops, I don't care. Wear the flip-flops. Just come on, we got to get out here and go do something fun as a family, because that time is pretty precious.
I like that. And so one thing I've learned as a journalist is that everyone defines quality of life differently. For some people, it's affordable housing. For others, it's safety. For some people, it's simply feeling like they are part of their community, inclusivity. When you talked about protecting Burlington's quality of life, what does that mean to you, and whose voices help shape that perspective for you?
Sure. Well, first of all, there's so many voices in our community, and some are often a little bit louder and some are a little bit more forgotten. And one of the things that was important to me is, kind of growing up, middle class, working, not overly fancy family. Again, back to the nature piece is something that's accessible for all.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been able to, both as just a neighbor and as a city councillor, see how so many people in our community are living, across every intersectionality. And it doesn't actually mean that one person's having a better life than another person, because some are blessed with richness of community, of family, with love. Some may feel that they have everything they ever wanted and still feel empty and hollow, and be struggling with mental health. So I think that recognizing that people aren't necessarily defined by one thing that equals their quality of life is the first place to meet people where they are. And so when we talk about quality of life, we talk about at least at minimum the basics, right? So if you needed help, is there somewhere you could get help? And the answer is yes, because we have so many different compassionate communities across our city that I think the worst feeling you could have is that feeling of despair or hopelessness where there's no path out. And I see a lot of people volunteering of their time, talents, and treasures to create paths to helping other people reach their potential. And that is that quality of life. And we protect that by staying plugged in with each other, asking how we are, creating opportunities, whether it was the urban farm that I did or when I was on the Burlington Food Bank Board of Directors as a volunteer, not as a council member. Having that ability to see how we can make small contributions to help others, because the thing is, you never know when you're going to need help, right? So I think that we have such a giving community that quality of life piece is important, and it does scale up to those infrastructure conversations, right? If we don't have a bus system that people can get around on, that pulls back from their quality of life because they can't get to making core memories with families, getting to the support that they need, or when you look at the access to the waterfront or the trails or overdevelopment in the downtown, those types of things can also contribute to that sense of feeling overpowered or out of control, or that they just don't have a voice in their community anymore. And that's some of the stuff that pulls back from that commitment to quality of life.
And so, I guess, what would you, if you were to, become mayor, kind of, have a mindset or a vision of, whose voices are going to shape what quality of life is here in Burlington?
Well, I think the first thing that we need to do is not define who, but define how. And I can tell you, a lot of people feel squeezed out of the city and the conversations with the city. And it's as simple as not having 6:30 p.m. council meetings and expecting people to take time off of work and their life's obligations, their education, to come and use what is, I think, by politicians seen as the most powerful tool, which is the delegation, right? You can write an email, you can ask for a coffee, you can write it, you can appear at the podium on record, so you can make a petition. So I feel like that's the first thing that we've done to really let people know that their voice isn't as important as it should be, is making that change, which will revert if I'm fortunate enough to be elected mayor. And then I know that our advisory committees need a big shake-up as well, because they have so much to offer to the community, and it could be anything. We can redefine the advisory committees. We can listen to them. We can allow them to make priorities and then act on those by the end of the year, right? So being more succinct with community input in, and then results from your city out. And I have been lacking examples of that, which is also why I heard the community come up behind me with a lot of support to say, because you can see that, because we think you have the skills that can affect that type of change, we do want to see you in a next step leadership role.
And so, anyone that runs for mayor, they know that it's not just another job title, or it's not just another job. It demands an incredible amount of time, energy, and often the people closest to you feel it. You said that you'll work harder than anyone else. What conversations have you had with your family of what this role could ask of you, and how will you protect your own mental well-being and that balance between work and family?
Sure. So the balance between work and family has only been my first priority ever, and I'm going to expect some patience from the community, because they hold those family loved ones' values very high, and I think that they need to share patience with the mayor as well. So we do set aside special days that are just for us. So Mondays is not a campaigning day. We usually try to get down to the water or go do something as a family, catch up on chores. We do a lot of our own chores for sure. But what's more important is that I think we just need to reset the way that the mayor spends their time. So having come from, as the only candidate with a strong corporate background, what is expected in a large corporation in one day is something that didn't shake my bandwidth. It was very much achievable. So, I've already had very young children commuting into near Toronto, working a full day, commuting back, doing the dinner, doing the bath time, doing the weekends, doing the sign-ups for swim lessons and this and that. I've already been there and didn't miss a beat. So to now have more teenage children who are wonderful children and good community members. My son is helping out with Rotary shortly to help with the eco team for the Rib Fest. So when I have those types of children who have had the good values instilled in them, and like my great interns who are also wanting to be part of the city and have those youth opportunities, I think that work-life balance is just a core functionality, because I can't do my best for the city if I don't know for certain that my family's needs are met, and everybody pulls their own weight. And the city and my family knows that I can't take good care of the people in the city if they're not doing their part and they're not meeting their expectations. So, we've got, engagement with school, engagement with sports, and we just don't really have time for any foolishness around our house. So we have no time for silliness at the city and no time for silliness at the house. So everybody's got to be working towards the same goals. And so that makes that balance really achievable.
Yeah, and I like the way that you talked about involving your kids into the work that you do. I feel like I do that a lot with my son. If I'm doing PR for a big concert, come along today. He's here today. And so it's that's how you're able to find that balance between work and families. If you are able to somehow try to include your family, then you're not missing out, so much time with them, that you're creating memories with them while also doing your job.
Yeah, and I also think it's kind of unfair to say a person of a certain caliber of role, like a mayor, has more of a challenge with work-life balance with family. I think the person who is working 2 jobs to make ends meet and taking transit, we should be sending all of our love there and saying, how are you managing your work-life balance? Are neighbors stepping up to take in the bins in the morning when the recycle's gone out? Or are we sharing casseroles when we're doing batch cooking? And are we checking in with taking their mail if they haven't been able to, they've been working many, many shifts and the junk mail's piling up. Just those small things about asking, how are you? And doing a little small act of kindness. I think everybody right now is struggling with work-life balance, and life's obligations are piling up pretty quickly. So I don't think it's just someone who's in a more visible, let's say, larger role. I think it's everybody that is needing to, give themselves a little more TLC.
I 1,000,000% agree with that. Everybody is working 2 jobs or working full time and trying to do something on the side with the way, gas
There's
prices and cost of living. Yeah.
You're making difficult choices, I can't go here because of the gas price.
Yes.
We got to come to this instead, even though it's not what we wanted to do. And now you're recalibrating, you're shifting expectations and outcomes. So, I think the mayor is a very privileged role, actually, to have that much autonomy around schedule and time. And I would say that was one of the things that was most important to me leaving corporate and coming into this councillor's role, even though, I lost my spot on the corporate ladder and I took a huge pay cut. I was able to say, no, I will always be at, Monday morning chapel for the kids. I will always be at intramural sports. I will always be at hockey practice. I'll always be at the dance competition. I'm blocking my calendar. And that is actually the privilege of the role, as opposed to, anybody feeling sorry for me about this work-life balance. It's a privileged role, and, I don't take that privilege lightly.
Okay, I like that.
I mean, the kids, let's not be, I also have run out of the house with dishes still on the table because I needed to get to something.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I definitely understand. Yeah.
Ways.
Sometimes your house is a disaster so that you're out there getting things done. That happens to me a lot. I also work 2 jobs.
Yeah.
So I work for Burlington Local News and then I have a part-time job. So it's a lot of work trying to like balance household, kids. I also coach my son's soccer team.
Yeah.
So like, getting all of that is a lot. And I like the fact that you talked about like the privilege of the autonomy. Like no one's necessarily making your schedule for you. You're choosing when you get to show up and how you show up, which I think a lot of people don't really think about it like that.
Yes. And even before I came to you today, I've already vacuumed the floors, put a load of laundry through, packed the dishwasher, took a shower, wiped, like folded laundry, wipes down the bathroom. Like,
you need to come to my house.
I know.
We need all that. But that's great. Yeah, it's like you have to keep finding that balance on a daily basis. Do you feel like that? Like you on a regular basis you're continuing to find that balance?
So I read all my reports before bed. So I read, everyone knows I do all my homework and I've read every report and every comment and appendix. Everybody knows that about me. They tease me, but I'll take that any day of the week. So I do find a lot of time when the kids are already down or things like that. I don't waste any time. And I do consume an incredible amount of information. So, being able to do that and work very mindfully has been, not just a gift, but a skill. And so I've been able to balance the workload with that ability.
Okay. So as a city councillor, you're almost like the ears of the city. You're constantly hearing from residents with different perspectives, different lived experiences. During your time representing Ward 2, has there ever been like an issue where you're listening to residents and it's genuinely changed your mind? And if it has, like there was an incident like that where talking to a resident changed your mind, brought in your perspective, what was it and what shifted it for you?
So I'll begin to answer this with the fact that I don't actually have my mind. Okay, so I don't come to any issue with a predetermined outcome.
Okay.
And I do not personally engage in cannabis. I don't support cannabis because that's just my personal view. However, when we were required to vote because of a requirement of the province on whether to allow, not opt out, of retail cannabis in Burlington, I listened to the community survey, and made my vote and my decision based on that. So I had an opposing personal opinion, but I listened to the community. It was a 72% in favor of survey response that I did receive, in addition to, as I mentioned, delegations, written correspondence. We even had the industry come and give some information as well. And then we had our analysis from staff. So I think it's really important to kind of start from the fact that I don't have any personal opinions that I push out onto my decision making. I'm a sponge that pulls in all of the opinions, runs them through frameworks. Is this safe? Is this economically an option? Will this help more people than it will hurt people? Will this enhance our community, our quality of life? Can we actually do this? Will staff be able to do this? Can we give the outcomes to the community that they expect? So I run everything through those filters or those gates, and I'm just constantly listening. I'm reading everything on Facebook. I'm reading everything on Reddit. All my emails come in. I have eyes on them. I get bumped into by, so I'm always late because I am bumped into anywhere I go, and people must think I'm very approachable because I have many, many conversations en route to something or somewhere. And, thank you to the community for being so kind to me, because they do see me walking the dogs and, in my leggings and running shoes. And, I have something I meant to tell you. Did you know about this? So I think taking in all that information, which, again, I have a huge capacity for information consumption, absorption, synthesizing and analyzing, and then holding on to it, and then plugging it back out when it needs to be used in a way that has a framework, like a report wrapped around it. So, I never come to the table with my own personal opinions. I just listen to everything and everybody, and then use those frameworks to make the best decisions for our community.
Yeah, and you were talking a little bit about like reading the comments on Reddit, on social media. That can be very overwhelming and a lot, and sometimes it can kind of like skew your perspective because you may think like, oh, look at all these people going crazy and like making upset comments online, but then when you're in the community you get like a totally different reaction. Like, how do you kind of like manage or balance between like the online perspective and reactions versus like your actual community interactions with residents?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, it's important to meet people where they are. And if online works for them, we just talked about people who are running multiple jobs, they have larger families, they have family obligations, they're caring for aging parents. If just keyboarding and, you know, engaging with city matters in that way is what works for them, that's what works for them. And I wouldn't want to either characterize just what's online as negative and what's in person as positive, because that's not always the case either.
Okay.
So I have people that will be very upset with me in public, and I stand and I listen to them. And I've had people, I do my monthly Ward 2 community updates, and if people have a grievance, they come in person, and everybody in the room hears the same grievance, and they can say, oh, yeah, actually, thank you for raising that. That is a problem for me too. Or they can say, oh, you just needed to do this and this, and that would have solved your problem, right? Or they come and they say, hey, thanks, because you've repainted all the bike racks downtown. You've replanted things that were missing on Pine. We were missing some trees. Same on Brant. So we've done a lot of downtown cleanup to sort of take the edge off of it. So sometimes you get positive feedback too. But I think you also get to know, again, I've been watching these comments for 8 years. You also get to know who some of the commenters are. I would say the anonymity would be something I would prefer to kind of lose a little bit more anonymity online.
Right, because
So
like they
I
can just like be under like user 84 blah blah blah, and you don't really know who the person is.
Yeah, and just knowing about sort of some of the issues with online commenting, I take those with like just the slightest less grain of salt than I do if someone uses their real name and says like, you know, what in the world is council doing? Like, I know Prospect is a disaster right now, and I'm seeing all of the negative comments. I'm hearing the negative comments. I'm walking, and people are stopping me saying, this doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Right? So we're still working with staff on some additional communications and going back to the original design work for protected bike lanes and traffic calming. And we have a commitment to Vision Zero that we won't lose anyone to traffic-related fatalities in Burlington.
Okay.
So, you know, there's certainly a lot of voices that want to see those safer streets and increasing our modality through safer design. And then there's people who are very upset about the length of time it's taken, the course corrections that have had to occur, and a new design that we have not done a good enough job educating and sharing and informing people about how this new style is used in our city. And similarly, when we put in the pedestrian crosswalks on Brant Street, they were welcomed, but then people were running through them. So we have continued to need to do some enhancements and more education around this as a street treatment that's going to contribute to safety.
Right. And are you talking about the one that's like right in the middle of like Branton, Lakeshore, and like the QEW, like that crosswalk? Which one? There's a couple, isn't there?
So any crosswalk that is controlled by pedestrians only is called a PXO.
Okay.
And those are the ones that you can use to safely cross a larger street without having a full traffic treatment of yellow, red, and green lights.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So as a Black woman living in Burlington, I've had conversations with people who don't always feel seen or included in our city, even though it's becoming a lot more diverse. What do you think residents whose voices haven't been traditionally heard, how do you make sure that they don't only have a seat at the table, but also feel like they genuinely belong?
So this is one of the things that I had flagged in our advisory committee report, is that we do need to re-review those and make sure that the voices of today are matching up with the voices that were at the table when that structure was created. And so If you look at funding for inclusivity, $200 is allocated under that particular report for Black Voices in Burlington. And then
Halton Black Voices?
No,
or just Black Voices?
Black Voices
Oh, Black
in
Voices,
Burlington.
okay.
And then the same amount is and what they had purchased was coloring sheets in February. And then similarly, another voice that is generally underrepresented in Burlington and feel that they're not as seen as they should be is our Pride Voices.
Yeah.
And that, again, was only $200 in, programming or whatever the case is. And I feel like those two communities have been the most underrepresented while a significant amount of funding is going towards Mundalization, which is important for sure, but I don't think it's level loaded properly to reflect people in our community. And we're seeing a lot of programming that is underfunded. Emancipation Festival was canceled.
Yeah.
And that one, to my knowledge, didn't receive any funding from tourism or the city to help contribute to bringing that type of a festival for sharing, connecting, and building culture in our community, especially in Spencer Smith Park. So that is a very sad moment in our city that I think needs to be corrected in the next term. Voices that want to be shifting and changing and evolving and celebrating into a new a tool.
Yes.
Really, right? Like, we're still sitting on these old tools of, you would like to have your voice heard? Well, now you have to create an advisory committee.
Right.
Right, you have to do this. Oh, you'd like to have this? Oh, well, you get a flag for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to strike an ambassador program where we have those community leaders available, right? Right now, even, I'll just say it, I've said it in public, like, I don't feel like the community or councillors have a direct path to the Indigenous voices at our city, because we've received a report on that. It was just a receive and file. And I really don't know where we go next with that, because we are, turning to a new leadership in the next few months, right? So, and then again, so much has been done, rightfully so, especially for Indigenous relations, but what has that meant for other voices in the community? Do you feel equally heard, or do we need to kind of recalibrate where our community is growing and shifting and making sure that everybody has a space in here? So when we say things that are paintbrush, like everybody belongs, I almost feel like that's insulting, because everybody doesn't feel like they belong.
Yes.
And I hear that at the doors. They don't feel they belong. They don't feel equipped to give delegations. They don't feel like it's a welcoming environment. It doesn't work with their work schedules. They don't want to have an advisory schedule if they just want to do something around, Black business ownership, whatever the case is. Where are our partners coming to the table for that particular thing, and really uplifting and showcasing the people who are making up our community of today.
Yes.
So I hear that, definitely. I don't think that the current structure, framework, administration, and elected officials right now, you won't see much change in the next 4 years unless there is a change.
So you really feel like it's the people more so than the structure that needs to change, that will help change the structure?
Well, the people change the structure, right? So, one of the things that I did see was, even engaging some of those arm's length partners, like the Burlington Downtown Business Association. They did a blog post on local Black-owned businesses.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, it's a little bit old, but it is there for sure. And so when we do those types of things, we should be pulling together all of our partners, not saying... So one of the things that just I cannot function within is silos. And we do have a lot of silos.
I know, it's hard, because then it feels like group think.
Yes, so I'd love to be a leader that breaks down those silos. I've worked in the corporations where those things were broken down and everyone was able to do their very best work, and I'd like to bring that to the city, from whether it's the way that we're doing our capital works and that huge infrastructure investing, to how we're making sure people in the community are seen and recognized and celebrated. So, I look forward to that work. I will tell you, I'll be a mayor that will be at my desk almost 85% of the time. I won't be running around town. I will be out of town. I will be in town with our people, and I just love them so much, and I just hope that the electorate sees that.
Okay. So I kind of like coming close to our last question. People are always talking about being in their healing era, their soft life era, their hustle era. If you had to choose a title of the chapter of the life that you're in right now, or a title of the era that you're in right now, what would you call it and why?
Oh, that is the tricky question.
Like, I'm in my soft girl era right now. So, like, like everyone has their little eras. What kind of era do you feel like your season of your life do you feel like you're in right now?
Well, I feel like I'm in everything because, 1 minute I'm doing sunrise yoga with some wonderful girls here in Burlington-based business, the Morning Method. So 1 minute I'm doing morning yoga. The next minute I'm doing like a chamber event. The next minute I'm doing, like globally, not globally, but like, very locally and provincially recognized, advocacy on data centers. I was just on the cover of CBC Hamilton.
Nice.
So, 1 minute, like I feel like right now, I think it would be like my hat era.
Hat era?
Yeah,
okay.
Honestly.
You're wearing multiple hats.
Yeah, in the matter of, a few hours, I could have so many different hats. I was doing, some executive coaching and nervous system healing yesterday with, our hypnosis community with Tree Ryder.
I need to get invited to that.
Yeah, she's amazing. So I went and did a congratulations to some of her certificate and degree award recipients, and then I said, let's do something here. But at the same time, my child called, and I said, I take my kids' calls 100% of the time. So, that's one hat while I'm in the middle of this, growth moment, but I'm still making sure that the family is my number one priority, while, kind of taking a business call on the way there, hands-free, of course.
Yes.
And then and then being a chore lady, like it's a hat era. It's like every minute is so different. And we were joking a little bit yesterday that we're moving from like whack-a-mole to like Tai Chi, where we're just kind of
I like the Tai Chi.
Flowing through, okay, I'm reading a report and responding to this, helping out our local bricks and mortar businesses related to hospitality competition with food trucks, and that's a little bit of a hot topic. And so I'm coming off of that and going into like a campaign call at first thing in the morning, and then I'm going into sort of a personal session for personal growth and executive coaching, and then back home to make some lunch for everybody and tidy up the dishes. So I'm going to call it my hat era.
Okay, your hat era. And like, do you try to get like 8 hours of sleep a night in this hat era? Like, how many hours of sleep are you getting?
Well, so I do love my sleep, for sure. I love to sleep.
Me too.
And I wouldn't say 8 hours. So I would say I go to bed. I have the dog at the end of the bed on the floor. She has her little bed down there, so we got to tuck Otis in. Then I do my Wordle. I got it in 2 yesterday. This is a big day.
Oh, 2 Wordle activities?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got Wordle in 2 yesterday.
Okay.
And then I did a block blast, and then I go to sleep, or sometimes I'll read an agenda report just kind of like on a tablet before bed. And then I kind of start to stir around 5, and then I either try to like put myself back to bed, or maybe do some stretching, or on those yoga mornings get to the yoga, and then so it's maybe like 6 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any last words that you would like to say to the residents of Burlington about yourself?
About myself?
Yeah.
Just this is what you're going to get. I don't have any other tricks up my sleeve. I'm just here to serve our community. It's something that's super important to me. It was really hard for me to get to Burlington. We, worked really hard. I grew up in Hamilton, put myself through university, got my schooling, was able to be successful through a number of different careers, and then when we were ready to start our family, we chose Burlington, and it's been everything that we had hoped it would be. But I think it can really be so much more, and that's what I'm really here to focus on, is just give our community its next little push into reaching for its most highest potential. And I think there's so many people that have been so supportive in the community that also want to see that for Burlington, and that they have a place here. They have a place in my campaign, especially my interns, who I love to have, creating opportunity for our youth. And we've got a youth council that's creating more opportunity so that they can take these learning skills with them to their next chapter. So I think as long as we all kind of look around at each other and say, how can I help you? We're going to have a much better city.
Love that. Thank you so much for coming to Pages of Me podcast,
great.
election edition. And you guys can check out more about Lisa Kearns at lisakearns.ca. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for listening to Pages of Me podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with someone who would enjoy it. Remember, every person has a story beyond the headlines, beyond the titles, beyond what people see on the surface. On Pages of Me podcast, we're turning those pages one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Kezia. Thank you for spending this time with me. And until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep discovering the stories that connect us. Take care.